Hi, I'm Suze Shaner with Sage Leadership Strategies, and I'm your host today of Community Forum. And I have the great pleasure to introduce to you today Kevin Palache, who is a business owner in the legal services and employee benefits space. Welcome, Kevin.
Hey, Susie, how you doing today? Suze?
Good. How are you doing?
Fantastic.
Okay, nice to have you here. So, first of all, I know you are a representative for LegalShield, but can you tell us a little bit about your journey and how you came to this particular business?
Yeah, absolutely. Been involved now with LegalShield 17 years, believe it or not. As of end of October, it's been 17 years that I've been involved with LegalShield. I'm actually the regional director here in Connecticut. I'm an independent associate as well. And heard about it when I was actually working at an insurance company here locally. I pretty much grew up for the most part, here in Connecticut. Went to Bloomfield High, and then I was a first generation college student at the University of Connecticut. Studied finance there, graduated back in 2000. So I can't believe it's been that long already since I graduated from UConn, and went on from there again to work in at an insurance company. They actually had a real estate division investment group where I worked in, and got started here with LegalShield. After really, hearing about the services, I really love the services that are provided, how affordable it is, and made a decision to kind of take a leap of faith on the entrepreneurial side, to get involved with the business. Initially, first and foremost, part-time, and about a year later, I was able to make the decision to go full-time in the business. So I've been working from home now for about 15 years.
Before everybody else was because of COVID. But so I want to ask you about a couple things. So you're the first generation college grad. Congratulations. I'm curious about that. So how did that happen? How did you have the incentive to go to college? How did you navigate that? I mean, that's a pretty big deal.
Yeah, well, it wasn't an option, right? So it was, basically, since I was a kid, my parents always emphasize the importance of education, right? Education is the key. Education is needed to be able to progress and to move forward. And so even though my parents didn't have that ability, to go to college, they really instilled those values in me when I was younger. So it was always an expectation, because I heard it so much when I was younger, that it's just going to be the natural progression, right? You're going to go to school, work hard, do your best, get the best grades possible, and then, move on to college. And so, so that definitely helped, to kind of get that reinforcement, so even though they didn't have the experience themselves, being able to hear it over and over again, and again, that support, even when I was in high school, working with a guidance counselor, doing all the applications. It would definitely, obviously a new experience, but I just, made the most out of it. Got plugged in right away, made sure I kept the good study habits up while I was at UConn, didn't get distracted, and worked out.
Yeah, no, that's because obviously you had the values instilled in you, and your parents were just set it up like that's what you're going to do. But the fact that you kept yourself focused and very disciplined, you went to a state school. I'm curious, what advice would you give any young person who maybe they are the first generation? Because sometimes someone's a first generation, it can be challenging once you're even in the college environment. Did you experience any of that at all? Because you don't have the frame of reference, like your parents didn't go to school. So I'm just curious kind of how that played out for you.
Right. Yeah, I mean, my advice would, if possible, seek guidance from people who've already traveled the path. I mean, I was lucky at UConn, they had obviously programs in place where you could go on the campus in advance and, get kind of acclimated to being in that college atmosphere and kind of on your own, even in advance of me actually starting school there. So that definitely helped, but again, you've got to know yourself and what your goals are. I mean, as you can imagine, like most kids, most universities, it's easy to get distracted. You don't have the supervision of your parents anymore. No one's going to wake you up to say, hey, it's time to go to class and you've got to study X amount of hours. Like you've got to, already take that responsibility. And, thankfully, I got a scholarship to go there, which helped to pay for the bulk of, the education. So it's a 4-year scholarship. So I was very determined to make sure that I really, took it seriously, and stayed focused. And I just put in the time, right? So
Wow.
I wasn't an A+ student, but I did well, academically, and maintained my scholarship obviously over those years. But yeah, it's a discipline that I think that I developed then that has helped me to today as well. Yeah.
I mean, good for you. I mean, due to your hard work. The other thing I'm remembering as we're talking here is you also did have another help and support was through inroads. I remember when you and I first met, we were talking about that because I had done some training and development webinars for inroads. Can you talk a little bit about that program and how that helped you?
Yeah, absolutely. That was invaluable from the perspective of being able to get not only training, but being able to get internships as well throughout my college years, right? And so in addition to going to UConn, and it's almost by chance that I heard about the Inroads nonprofit organization and their commitment to develop and train underprivileged youth to be able to be acclimated in that corporate and professional environment, and that really helped to teach me the importance of showing up on time, right? The importance of making sure that you're a professional, that you're learning your craft. And so that organization was absolutely invaluable for getting that kind of real world corporate experience, as I was going to school at UConn. So really prior to that, I was working at like Burger King was where I was, right? Nothing wrong with Burger King, but I didn't get the kind of the managerial or the leadership skills as much there. But yeah, no, Inroads is a great, great organization that has helped so many, individuals throughout the country.
Yeah, absolutely. And so pretty early on after graduating, I mean, you did have that stint with I don't know if stint's the right word, sorry, with the insurance company, but then pretty early on, you went into this entrepreneurial venture. And so you served two roles, right? You said regional director and then an independent rep for the company. Can you talk about the distinction between those two roles?
Yeah, we're all independent associates. So with with LegalShield, basically how it works is that we're independent associates. So I compare it to being like an insurance agent or a real estate agent, right? There, we're all work independently, right? So first and foremost, we're independent associates with the company. We almost look at it as almost like owning a franchise within the company. But over the years, I've gotten basically designated as the regional director as well, for the state of Connecticut. Simply mean that I help to put together, training opportunities for other independent associates here within the state of Connecticut as well.
Okay, so interesting. So that's a gamble and a risk, and you did it at a fairly young age. And of course, now I know you have a family and all, and things have developed and grown over the years. But what I'm curious, just from an entrepreneurial perspective, what enabled you to take that first plunge and to go into this business?
Right. Well, for me personally, it was just first of all having that goal that I wanted to have the ability to at some point be able to work on my own, to work independently. I wanted to have the flexibility, that time freedom that I didn't see myself having in kind of the corporate environment, 20, 30, 40 years down the line. And I know I talked about this recently on a training call recently that, I made a calculated risk, right? Looked at, the fact I was in my early 20s, back then after graduating from UConn, I was still living at home. Back then I was, dating my wife now, Rochelle, but I wasn't married at that time. I didn't have children at that time. And so I really made a calculated risk and said, look, if there's ever a time that I'm going to, go full time, in this business, right, this will be the time or the opportunity to do so. So I did, again, take that leap of faith, to get involved with the business again, part-time and then eventually full-time, which was a huge leap for me because especially when I got started in this business, I was a huge introvert. I still consider myself, to a certain extent more of an introvert. So this was definitely helped to really focus on growth. As I've been involved with the company over the years, our organization, really focuses on personal development, right? It's so important to make sure that we're working on ourselves from day to day, especially as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, someone who, again, you're not going to have someone telling you what to do and when to do it, each and every single day. You've got to develop that discipline internally.
But this is interesting, Kevin, because so you classify yourself as an introvert. You went after this in your early 20s, which, you know, in some sense, like you didn't have quite as much to lose, right? So if you lost it all, whatever that was, wasn't as much as if you were to try to do it today, right? So, so you took that calculated risks. You had some safety nets there. You were still living at home and all of that. But also in terms of entrepreneurial profile, you're saying you're basically an introvert. So because being an entrepreneur does require a lot of marketing, a lot of getting out there continuously. So how have you, I'll say, on the one hand, grown and at the same time been challenged as an introvert and an entrepreneur running your business? Can you just talk a little bit about that? For those introverts out there, there's still hope, you know, if they wanted to do some kind of entrepreneurial venture. Can you just talk about your journey a little bit there?
Right. Yeah, and I think what has helped me to kind of stretch and grow over the years is having a strong focus on why I'm involved, right, in my business. You know, there's a quote by a gentleman, business philosopher Jim Rohn, and he said, if the promise is clear, the price is easy, right? So if the promise is clear, the price is easy. So if your vision and understanding of what you're looking to achieve, really in any business, the activity, the price you have to pay, the coming out of your comfort zone, right? That becomes much easier when you have a clear understanding of why you're doing what it is that you're doing. So even though, yes, I was an introvert, my goal was such that, I was willing to do what it took to grow and develop, to be able to achieve my goals, here in my business. And so, again, a big part of that is based on, really a couple of things. So we talk about like the pillars of personal development, right? It's the books you read, the audios you listen to, the events that you attend, and the people you associate with, right? So those basically 4 pillars of personal development. And so, again, starting my kind of personal development journey, I started really honing in on those things, so, reading books, listening to audios, making sure, you're associated with people who are helping you to achieve your goals, that have their own goals that they're looking to achieve, right? Which helps to move you forward, right? I like to call it positive peer pressure, right? And so, and then events that you attend, right? So I know even when I met you at the Leadership Forum, right? That's for me personally, that's a form of personal development, going and into different either networking groups or training opportunities, right? Where I could learn something different, right? And that's my goal, my expectation. Whenever I go to and obviously now we're doing all virtual events, right? Virtual networking events or what have you. I make sure that I go with the intent to learn something, while I'm there. So
you said the 4 pillars: reading, who you associate with, the events. What was the other one?
The audios you listen to.
And the audios you listen to. Okay. So really is what you're surrounding yourself with. You also talked about being really clear on having a clarity of purpose, kind of Simon Sinek would say your big why, staying focused on that, and also being determined and disciplined. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of what I heard. So really, and Jim Rohn obviously is a big motivational speaker. And so it sounds like you've availed yourself of a lot of his different books and different audios and things like that, so that you've kind of kept yourself motivated, focused, and kind of pumped up with your big why. Why are you doing this, and how are you going to do it? That's kind of helped you. It sounds like you have these different tools on a day-to-day basis that you tap into. Is that accurate?
Absolutely. Yeah. No one's, one of the things that Jim Rohn says is, sometimes people have a tendency to kind of want to wait for someone to come along and motivate them, right? So you're waiting for, I don't know if it's a spouse, maybe it's a family member, maybe a friend, maybe some sort of a business mentor. And a lot of people have this tendency where they're waiting for someone to come and save them, right? I can't wait till so-and-so comes. And the question he poses is, well, what if they don't show up? Right?
Yeah.
So, what do you do then, right? And so you've got to find a way, especially as an entrepreneur, you have to find a way, right? And it's different for everyone. So for me, that's what I personally use, those kind of 4 pillars of personal development, knowing where your why is, and having a cause and a mission that hopefully associated with what you do. So for me personally, when I first really saw this service, for example, for $25 a month, having the ability to get a will prepared, or being able to help people in the community when they have.
You know what, Kevin, let's talk about that for a minute, because that's incredible. So yeah, I mean, so the service that you actually offer in terms of just a reasonable price point for people to get some legal support. How did you pick this particular business? Because as an entrepreneur, you could have done a lot of different things.
Yeah, and it's funny. I was one of my kind of decision-making process was looking at, hey, I could do stocks. I was dibble and dabbling, in the stock market.
Yep.
My father has rental property, so I was okay. Maybe I could go into that because he's got experience with that. And then I looked at this business with LegalShield, and primarily the reason I chose it was, number one, because I have a huge belief in the service. To see for $25 a month, we could get our wills done. We could get help with consumer issues, landlord-tenant matters, business-related issues. So all these different things that we could use the service for. I felt good about being able to offer that service to people in the community. So even as an introvert, and at that time I was also volunteering on the executive board for 2 nonprofit organizations. So I did a fair amount of work in the community. And I was like, man, everyone needs to have this, right? For me, I was like, this is a no-brainer. People need to have access to this service. And that really played a big part in me making a decision.
So it sounds like it was a lot of, it's not just any business that you would do. It sounds like it was aligned with your values, and you feel like you were offering a service that could really help people. Not just because, I mean, especially now in this current environment with everybody sort of trying to, pivot and figure out how do they earn a dollar with all the different things shifts. I'm curious what you've seen in your business in these last 9 months during the pandemic in terms of your clients and just in general. What's been your experience from your vantage point? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's been unexpectedly a huge increase in both production and even new associates getting started with our business as well, because we basically work with independent associates. But even on the membership side, we've seen numbers that we literally haven't seen in over a decade in terms of production. And
so it sounds like 2 things. One, you're getting, sorry to interrupt you, I just want to make sure we're capturing this. Mm-hmm. So you're seeing increased folks representing your portfolio of services. So folks that are kind of pivoting themselves and being their own entrepreneurs, mm-hmm. business owners, et cetera, but also people who are enrolling as members. What do you think is attributing to that, people in this current climate? That's curious.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think, well, a couple of different reasons. Number one, I mean, if there wasn't uncertainty before, there's definitely a lot more uncertainty today, as it relates to potential legal issues and challenges that people are facing. So there's even a higher need now for our services. We've been seeing throughout the country, for example, even because of COVID-19, an increase in the number of our members who are utilizing their services. For example, they get their wills prepared, and their health care and their financial power of attorney. Because those things they want to make sure, heaven forbid, and a lot of times people know that they should have these things in place, but it's taken, I think, this huge event, right, on a global scale for people to realize, what, I need to stop putting this off, right? I need to.
Well, that's interesting, yeah, because you do offer it in a cost-effective way that kind of works for everyone. So, what do you really ultimately love about this work?
Well, for me personally, I love the flexibility. I absolutely love the flexibility. Having it, and it's one of those things that, I mean, you just don't know, and you don't really see the big picture, just with anything when you first get involved. But after you've been involved for a little while, you start to get a bigger vision of really what's possible, and being able to work from home, all these years has been an absolute blessing, and not obviously being able to foresee when I first got started in the business. Oh yeah, in 2020 we're going to have a pandemic where everyone's going to be forced to work from home, and you're going to have 2 kids. You can't plan for that stuff, right?
Yeah, and so you have 2 school-age kids, so you're doing it now. Yeah. You're doing what a lot of parents are doing. Both you and your wife work, and you've got 2 school-age kids, so you're punting, right? Absolutely,
yeah. And so my daughter's 10, my son is 6. He's in first grade, so he's like on his computer, and they've done. I've been really impressed with how well my kids have been able to make a pivot themselves, just in terms of school. So my daughter, like, she wakes up on her own at 7:30 or earlier in the morning, makes her breakfast. She's in class, her virtual class by 8 o'clock a.m. on the dot. So she's at a point now where she's got a good rhythm. My son, we got to kind of coax him out of bed a little.
Well, but once he's going, he's good. I think you and I talked about this. Boys at that age, they need a certain amount of physical activity. I mean, it's hard. So, yeah. So interesting. I think also it sounds like the fact that you self-declared introvert probably is easier for you in a way, would you say? Because if somebody was a real extrovert and they were working from home, sometimes that can be more challenging. It sounds like it also fit in with your temperament. Is that accurate or no?
Yeah, it's very accurate. Yeah. So, I mean, I haven't felt, well, first of all, I've been working from home anyways, for the last, 16 or so years. So, okay, you have to work from home. Well, I've been doing it anyway. So that's not been as much of a shift. And you're exactly right. And, we've kind of, seen that. We've all probably seen it in our own networks, people that we know. People have responded differently, so if you're an extrovert and you're used to hanging out and socializing, this could be a very challenging time, right now mentally, to not be able to kind of hang out with your family or hang out with your friends.
Yeah, I'm curious. You're well grooved in this. So when all this hit, it was like, hey, you're not really doing anything much different, right? Mm-hmm. Other than you can't go out necessarily to some different networking events. But how did you're well grooved now, but what have been some of your greatest challenges in your business, maybe even in terms of just staying consistent, keeping your head in the right space? Like, what have been some of your greatest challenges and how have you addressed those?
Yeah, well, I think, from current events, obviously when COVID hit and the whole state basically shut down in March, we were actually planning an event with over 100 people that were supposed to be at that event. Like I'm talking about the weekend, right? I think it was like on a Monday or something like that they made the announcement, no events over, I think it was like over 50 people or 20, whatever that number was. But it was apparent that we were not going to have that event. And so, and I saw from one of your previous episodes, you talked about the book, Who Moved My Cheese?
Yes.
And that was something that, I had to really internalize. It's kind of funny before I even got started in LegalShield, I wasn't much of a reader. Like, I'm telling you that right now. Like, I graduated from UConn. I'm never going to read another book, right? Was my mindset. And, but, it's a positive peer pressure. I had friends that I went to lunch with that were reading, for example, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, right? And that one thing, again, because they're talking about so much, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and the importance of having a plan B and having your own business. I was like, that positive peer pressure, right? That association, before I even know what really that meant, was working on me. And I actually read the book and it completely shifted my mindset, right? Where I wanted to be able to kind of have my own thing and be able to work from home. But one of the other books I read around that same time, and again, this is, before I got started back in 2002, 2003, maybe, was, Spencer Johnson, Who Moved My Cheese?
Yeah.
And back then it was like, oh, this is a cute book, right? It was like a nice little book, oh, the mice are getting out of the maze. Oh yeah, I get it. Be open-minded, blah, blah, blah. It's just like, you lose the lesson because of its simplicity. But early this year, and it might've been like February, March, one of our leaders had that, we have a book in a month, every single month. Right. So like, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, what we're doing this month. But back then it was Who Moved My Cheese. And it was right in time because we were used to doing live events like forever, right? Since I got started in the business. So like every single week we're doing seminars, live events. So for me, in terms of a huge challenge, at least recently, that we've had to overcome is making that pivot where now every single one of our events have been moved over to Zoom just like that. I mean, literally that week I had to I spent hours like trying to figure mastering Zoom because that same event where we had over 100 people, we had to transition that online. I had never done any type of a Zoom event.
What's interesting though, it's like we've had this technology for years. I mean, I've been conducting this via Skype and Zoom for a number of years, but at scale, now you're talking about doing it at scale. It's one thing if you have one-on-one meetings or even a couple of people, but this was really a forcing mechanism and a catalyst to ensure that people that either whatever, they didn't have the time, they thought I'll get to it someday, but it literally overnight forced everybody to transition. Otherwise you probably still would be doing the live events. Not that we don't want to go back there sometime, we do, but right. So
absolutely.
So I'm curious, give us an example of one of your most successful clients. And I know you sell to individuals, but you also sell to other small business owners, small and medium-sized businesses, and other entrepreneurs as well. So you're out there networking with a lot of other self-motivated business owners. Give us an example of one of your most successful clients that you've worked with.
Yeah. And I'll give a couple, maybe 2 examples, but yeah, we have a small business owner. I'm trying to think of a couple of different examples. So I'll share just one example of a small business owner. that I was actually doing a presentation for a group of small business owners. This is many years ago. And as I'm going through the presentation, I get like interrupted, like halfway. I'm talking about the benefits of the service. Hey, you can use it for debt collection letters, small business advice, if you ever have like any employment law issues. And like in the middle of the presentation, this guy comes out of nowhere, who I didn't know that well back then. Like I knew that he was a member of LegalShield, but really didn't know that much about him. Yeah. And very well respected member of the community, has a construction business, security business. And he interrupted and he was like, look, yeah, guys, like, he had to go to a meeting or something. He's like, guys, I gotta go. But let me tell you something. And he basically shared a story of how he had a client that he did work for, did everything he needed to do contractually. And the client, which sometimes happens, right, didn't pay him afterwards. Yeah. And he said he utilized his LegalShield membership. They actually were able to, in that case, I don't know if it was a letter or phone call that they made, but it was like thousands of dollars, right, that he was able to get back. And he didn't have to pay anything more, right, than his monthly membership fee. And we have small business plans, like a $39, for example. But it was like, so his whole thing was like, look, guys, this is a no-brainer. Like, to kind of have that endorsement from someone that respected in the community, that was like, I was like, hey, I don't need to say anything more. Like, I'm done.
He really helped you. He helped you kind of sell in a way. It is interesting because I did have to have that happen in my own business as well, where big long story, but I had a client not pay and over like a 2-year period, and I eventually had to hire a collections person who took a percentage of it, because after a while you don't want to be, I don't want to be involved in that transaction. I want to distance myself and have somebody else handle that. Yeah. But so that's great. So you had an endorsement right there. So we've got about another minute. So if you had a headline for anyone trying to pivot in this time, what would it be?
That had a headline. Well, I'll share one thing that our founder of always shared. At LegalShield, we're able to make a living while making a difference, right? And so that's why I'm excited about being a part of this organization. We're able to make a living while making a difference, and be able to help people, with our services. We say we're able to worry less and live more, thanks to.
Oh, I love that. That's a great little tagline. So if anyone was interested in anything that we talked about today, they wanted to reach out to you, can you give your contact information?
Yeah, my cell phone number is my direct number, 860-716-8208, 860-716-8208. And you can find me, my LegalShield website, just, kevinpalache.com. It's probably the easiest thing if you remember how to spell my last name at least, but KEVINPALACHE.com, or familyrightsplan.com, www.familyrightsplan.com. It goes to the same place and it has all my contact information there as well.
Okay, fantastic. Thanks so much for coming on the show, Kevin.
Thank you, Suze.
Absolutely. I'm Suze Shaner with Community Forum. Until next time, thanks for joining us.